Good morning, everybody. It's 6 a.m. Hopefully you all got a little bit more sleep. I'm going to break up this first seminar into 2, maybe 3 videos. The first video, I'm going to address a major topic. So this topic of stress, I'm going to kind of introduce in a way that you haven't really considered before. And it's important that you really gather what I'm saying here. I need you to turn off your emotional centers and start using your frontal cortex and really just reason with me on these things that I'm about to say. Because if we do that, the way that we talk about stress throughout the rest of the video series this week, in this video, and next week, it is going to have a profound impact on your sense of urgency to address these issues. So I'm going to talk first about this notion of free will. Now, why am I talking about free will? Well, you're going to find out. So just entertain me for a moment and let's test out this notion of choice making that you seem to have. So go ahead, and this is a famous experiment. This is not something that I made up, by the way. But go ahead and just think of any movie. Choose a movie, any movie. You got it? Okay. So stop and just forget about that one. Let's do it one more time. Forget about that first movie. Choose a second movie. And this time just hold on to that movie. Okay, you ready? All right. So at this point, let's just recognize that you are as free as anything, right? If free will exists, it's going to exist here, that you could have chosen any movie. But let's just stop for a moment and consider, of all the movies that you've seen in your life, think of all the movies that you didn't think of, right? Did you think of Rocky 3? Now, you all know that I probably thought of Rocky 3, but did you? You may have seen Rocky 3. Did you think of Pulp Fiction? Did you think of Rocky 4? You didn't think of so many movies that you've seen. So just recognize that you were not free to choose that which you did not think of. Okay? Now, if we do this on and on with different things, we can recognize that at any given moment, we're only free to choose that which we're aware of at that moment. But also just recognize that, similar to the movies coming into your head, at any given time in a day, right, you're not thinking your thoughts. Like these thoughts that came into your brain about these movies, where did they come from? Why were your Rocky 3 circuits not firing at that moment, even though you saw Rocky 3? Similarly, at any given time during the day, where did this thought come from? Where did this anxiety come from? Where did this depressive thought come from? If you sit down to meditate, why is it such a difficult process, right? So we can see this unfold. More importantly, is just while you're speaking to somebody, just recognize that you're not really consciously formulating the conversation, right? The words just seem to come out of your mouth in such a way that it makes sense by the end of the statement. This is something that I do all of the time, and I'm continuously fascinated by it. You can be in a high-level conversation with somebody on a philosophical topic, on a nutrition topic, on whatever topic at work, and it's amazing that the words are just flowing out of your mouth in such a way that you're not formulating these words. So these are all things I want you to consider. But more importantly here, just let's look at the more obvious things. Now again, this is a topic I have explored in great detail. I wrote a book about it. It is heavily footnoted. So let me just give you some of the more obvious things, right? You didn't choose your genes. And we will talk a lot about how much genes influence behavior, heavily influence behavior. You did not choose to be a male or a female. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your friends growing up, really, when you were in preschool and kindergarten and first grade. You had the 20 or 30 or 40 kids in your class, right? You didn't have the ability to choose from any friends. And sometimes, you were forced into groups to associate with kids. And whether those were positive or negative experiences, we know that that maps onto children's behavior later. You didn't choose the food that was in your pantry, right, when you were growing up. So if you were eating lots of sugar and garbage growing up, it's very easy to create what we know now, type 2 diabetes, very early in children, and what this maps onto later on. You didn't choose a whole bunch of things that we can go on and on about. That I really just want to give you a flavor for the fact that your brain health really matters. Okay, that if you didn't sleep well, we know that you're not going to make very good decisions. Your IQ literally lowers when you don't sleep well. We know that that it affects your insulin. We know it affects decision making. Just in sleep, if you had a head injury, if you got hit in the head, we know that this could create all kinds of deleterious consequences to reasoning and even emotional well-being. Again, go on and on this topic. I spent 97 pages giving several examples of all these things about how free will, decision making is affected. So here's my point. Here it comes. Recognizing all of these things that we don't have control over. If there's one thing that we should want control over, is our health, right? We should want control over our mental and physical well-being. So I can't tell you how many times people have said to me over the years, Tom, how is it that you squat almost 500 pounds? How is it that you've deadlifted 550 pounds? How is it that at 42 years old, you looked this way in this bodybuilding competition? How is it that you just bench pressed your body weight 21 times and deadlifted 300 pounds 16 times, all in 80 seconds? Okay, this is not by coincidence. I work on it, right? I work on my physical strength and I work on my nutrition. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't go out to dinner and can eat and drink and have dessert with the best of them. In fact, I'm likely to eat more than you if you come out to dinner with me. But I have this thing, it's called proper measure. I pick and choose when I do what I do. And I have meticulously set up habits in my life to mitigate stress and to optimize nutrition and strength. A lot of what I do is actually outside of the gym. And these are some of the things that we'll talk about next week, okay, as far as managing stress and these habits and what we can do here. But I really just want to set the stage here for everybody to recognize that moving forward, if you're telling me, if you want to protect your notion of free will, recognize again that so much of what so many people do throughout the day, including myself in many fields, we're constantly being somebody that we don't want to be. And to be uniquely human, right? It's a uniquely human thing that we can try to choose to be somebody we want to be, right? If not for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your children, do it for your friends. Be the person that you want to be in the world so that others can benefit if you don't want the benefit. But of course you want the benefit, right? It's just that you're constantly in this position of judging yourself. And part of what I want you to understand about free will and how, in my opinion, we have no free will. But even if you want to claim that we have some free will, right, then we should really protect our choices. We should really make the best choices possible. I'll give you just another quick example of my thought process here. When I started the free will book, I was already writing a different book, and I realized that I need to take this topic of free will and make it its own book because one chapter wasn't going to do it justice. The other book I was writing had to do with science and philosophy and Shakespeare. Now you may say, Shakespeare? What the heck? Yes, Shakespeare. So when I was 19 years old, this is a true story, I was working with a man who was truly very present individual with his work. I was working at CVS Pharmacy. He was a pharmacist. And after about 6 months of watching this guy, now mind you, I was 19 years old. After work one day, I walked up to him and I said, hey, listen, I know there's something special about you. I don't know what it is, but will you teach me? I can tell that you know something, right? Just from watching him work. And we talked a little bit. We talked a little bit about philosophy and some spiritual stuff. And based on where I was at that time at 19 years old, I was very much into philosophy and religion. He said, okay, I want you to meet me in the park behind CVS at 6 a.m. tomorrow. 6 a.m. I was 19. Of course, I showed up. Now, he didn't realize that me waking up at 6 a.m. is no problem, because from the time I was in 8th grade, I ran with a coach named Vinny Whitehead, that from June 1st all through the summer, we woke up at 6 a.m. to run cross country. That's a coach that taught us discipline and sacrifice. When everybody else was sleeping in for summer break, we were at 6 a.m. Running our courses. So, he was testing the wrong guy here. I was already well seasoned. So one of the things he gave me to do was to learn these Shakespeare sonnets. And long story short, here it is, 25 years later, and I have more than half of the sonnets memorized. And that's why I started to write a book about it, because I believe I know something about the sonnets that most people don't. Now, why am I saying this to you? Why am I memorizing? There's 154 sonnets, by the way. So next week, if anybody would like me, I'll bring my book. You can open to a random page, and I'll recite one if you don't believe me. But I have about a 50-50 chance of having it completely memorized. Now, you may say, what is the point here? Here's the point. Here's the point. If somebody were to say to me, why are you memorizing these Shakespeare sonnets? Here's my answer. Because I have an opportunity as a human being to learn, to memorize the words of the greatest literary artist of all time. As a human being, I have a brain that's capable of doing it, that I can literally be in the mind of Shakespeare, understand his vision, hear his words, use his voice. Now, that's a choice I'm making. All I'm asking you to do is to make a choice to be healthy, to be strong, to live life through a body that is strong, that is healthy, that is fit, with a brain that can reason, meaning when it comes to food, when it comes to whatever challenges that you have in your life, you can make better choices. This is the foundation of what the UTC has been about. We started doing this a very long time ago, and a lot of what we set up in the very beginning was just behavioral patterns. We said, hey, look, if it's in your home, you're going to eat it. You got to get it out. You have to prepare your food like this and put it into containers. You have to do all of these things. Now, I want you to reflect for one moment and just think about all those before and after pictures on the wall. Because at 19, I put my faith into a teacher. And to this day, I still practice the things he gave me to the best of my ability. Despite my genes, despite all the challenges in my own life, just like you all have challenges in your life, but I still followed what I knew was valuable. I've given you, and people who have worked at Fit for Life have given you the best of what they know. But we can't do these things for you, right? It's up to you to take these things and put them into your life for yourself. So I'm gonna stop this video now, and I'm gonna address specifically the hormones of stress and what stress is doing to our body, and why we need to really pay attention to this topic.